Hi, how are you all today? This is Nancy from Black Sheep Knitting in Needham, Massachusetts. We're a local yarn shop with lots of yarn. We have an online store, so there are lots of opportunities to shop. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 5 for the time being. Hopefully we'll expand our hours in the fall and we'll be having more classes, so we have that to look forward to. Today I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to show you how to pick up a dropped stitch in Garter. I showed it in stockinette, but Garter can be a little trickier, so I thought I would show that. I'm going to show you some things that I have on my needles, and I have an embarrassing number of things on my needles at home. These are just a few, but I thought I'd show you, and then I have a little surprise at the end. So I'm going to demonstrate how to pick up. So what I have here is I've knit a swatch on a size 10 needle in a DK weight yarn. I wanted to make the stitches nice and big so that you could see them. And this is simply a Garter swatch. I've been just knitting. It's knit every row. And down here I have a stitch that has dropped out. So Garter has two sides to it. It has, in these valleys, is a knit side, and then the ribbing or the bumps you see is a purl side. And I'm not saying that you've knit and purled, you've knit, but what happens when you knit every row, you get one side that looks like knit and one row that looks like knit and one row that looks like purl. If you turn it over, the row that looked like purl will look like knit on this side. And if you've ever watched anybody knit, if you're opposite them and you're watching them and they're knitting, what it looks like to you is purl. So what I have here is a stitch. This is the row below this stitch that has dropped, and it has dropped, you can see, from the knit side. So I need to make a purl stitch. So what I'm going to do is I brought the yarn in front of the stitch, I put my right needle in, I pick up that little bar and I lift it over. So I've now made a purl stitch to go with this little purl row because right below it was a knit. So then that tells me that my next bar that I have to pick up should be a knit. So if you can see, this bar is attached to these stitches, and these are the knit side of the Garter. So this time I'm going to pick it up from the front so that it's in back of this stitch. And remember, these stitches are just interlocking loops, so I'm lifting this loop over that bar, and I made a knit stitch for the knit row. Now my last one, and if you get confused and don't know which it should be, look at where, this is what I call the bar, and it's going from this stitch to this stitch. And if you look at it, you can see that this stitch was a purl, and this is a purl, the purl side of the Garter. And so what I want to do, I want to make a purl side. And I'm just going to take this, so I've got my stitch and I put the bar in front. I stick my needle into it from the back. I go around the back side and I grab the stitch and lift it over. And there I have my stitches back the way they should be. This one actually looks like a knit because I had knit right up to it, but if I took that out, you would see that now you see the purl sides of the Garter and below it the knit side. And if I turned it around, these would look like the knit side. So if you wanted to fix it on the knit side, I can take this out. So if I took this out, I can fix what was a purl on that side, because you can see on that side it's the front, and on this side it's a knit side so I can do the knit where I just lift it over. And looking back, it made the purl bump. However, I have it mounted incorrectly, so I put it on, and there we fixed it. So you can go down pretty far and fix these kinds of stitches. If your 10, or as Robin said, she went down 50 rows, if it's way down, you really do have to take out the stitches on either side of the stitch that's been dropped, so that will give you enough yarn to remake the stitches. It's a little tricky, but it can be done, and it saves you an enormous amount of time, and it keeps you from having to rip out your work. So that's how you pick up stitches on the garter. So I thought I'd show you some of the many things I have on my needles. This is a hat that I'm doing, and it's called the Camaraderie Beanie. And it's a chunky weight on a size 10 needle, I believe. And it's done, I'm doing it in the Malabrigo Mecha, or Mica, whatever, Mecha, it's M-E-C-H-A. And so it's about 3.5 stitches to the inch. And what this is there's a cable on either side. And if you remember my tutorial on how to cable without a cable needle, this is a perfect pattern to try that on, because it's very, very easy. You put one stitch, it's a 3-stitch cable, and very, very simple to do, and you do 2 in a row. So it's fun. I hope to get it finished soon, and will be in the shop. Another project that I have that has been kind of on my needles for a while, and you can see I'm halfway through a row. This is called Rockin Rows, and it's by Martina Baim. This is the pattern. It's in black and white, and I'm doing it in a fingering weight, and I think I have actually 3 different yarns, but they're all fingering weight, and it's kind of it's a fun pattern, and it gets bigger, and then I think narrow at the end. So that's something I'll probably pick up and keep going with. And then I have another one, but this has been kind of a long-term project because I just pick it up every now and then. This one is called, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Suolaulu. And this is the pattern right here. So it's spelled, well, Robin will have it on the on this email, see if I can get a better picture. Here's another picture. This little flower is not part of it, but there's a close-up of this. So it's a really fun color work project. And so and it's done in Digilpin Highland, which is a sport weight lamb's wool. And it's one of those soft woolly wools is what I would call it. It's super soft, and I just love it. So I have a little surprise, and I'm going to show you what the surprise is, and it will be used on this sweater. So you know when you started knitting your sweater and you want to try it on, and then you have to go through all this crazy stuff of putting either another needle on it or you have to thread some yarn through. Well, a very clever woman I want to say she's in Finland, I may have this wrong, made something. She calls herself the Knitting Barber, and she is I think she's a hairstylist and probably a knitter, but in her spare time she came up with this idea of this little tube. And this kit, this little thing, comes with several of them in different sizes, and you could use them, you'll see how to use them, but you can cut them into different lengths. So rather than putting my stitches and having to take them off and rethread them, what happens is you put this tube on the end of your needle, and it does expand, And I had a thought while I was doing this. I thought, well, what if I use this like 50 times and this gets stretched out? Well, all you'd have to do is trim it and then start again. So I put it here, and I can just start pulling my stitches and putting them on the tube. So they're now going on the tube. And I can do a couple of different things. I could put the other end on here to be sure that I don't lose stitches. So I push that on there, and I can make this as wide as I want to go over my head or over my hips, and I don't have to employ another needle. I don't have to take stitches off. All I'm doing is sliding them on here. So isn't that clever? So I can make it as wide as I want to put the stitches on, and then when I'm off to put the sweater on me to see how it fits, when I'm all finished, I just push them back onto the needle, over the tube, and I can take the tube out. You can use this in other ways. You could use it as a for holding sleeve stitches here. You could cut this, and then just tie it, put them on there and tie it in a knot. And then you would have them being held just like this, and you can use any length that you want. I think it's just brilliant. One customer said to me, "This changed my life." So I'm sure you can find other uses for these. They're in the shop. It comes with several spares, and it comes very big. I think they are, there's one 60-inch and two 30-inch tubes. So that's our little surprise. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope this was helpful. Practice trying to pick up stitches on garter. Just knit yourself a little swatch, or take out some if you've got a swatch left over, and just practice it. Get so it's just second nature. You're able to do it, and you don't ever have to pull out stitches. You could also, I discovered, you could put this on a tapestry needle, thread it through some stitches, and use this as a lifeline, which would be a good thing to do. And if you were worried about it falling off, the stitches so it wouldn't fall, the stitches wouldn't fall off, you can put a knot there. So a little handy tool. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and have a great week of knitting. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.